Okay. So I'm riding my R1M to my best friend's house the day before his wedding to help with all the last minute errands like any good best man. I was making great time on a quiet, warm, dry Saturday morning. I'm rounding a corner less than a mile from his house when I hit a manhole cover that almost forces me to have a layer down, but I didn't. And in the split seconds that followed, I considered rolling off the throttle and slowing down, but instead I decided to move to the outside of the lane, figuring that if there was going to be another raised manhole cover, it'd probably be in the center of the road like the last one. I was right that there would be another sewer cat moments later, but I didn't predict that it would be offset just slightly to the outside of the lane, or that it would be bigger and more fucked up than the last one. I hit the next one damn near dead center just a few seconds later, and briefly caught air before the front wheel hit the ground and caused me to low side. No, I fucking did it. I fucking did it. I finally did it. Oh no. Well, what do we got? We're good. Frame slider saved it. Fuck! Fuck! The bike hadn't stopped moving before I was trying to choke back tears, not because of any physical pain, but because I was so embarrassed and disappointed by what happened. You see, over the past 15 years I've been riding motorcycles, I've been in this position probably a half dozen times, crashing my bike and then trying to figure out what the hell to do next. It is always the worst moment right after it happens, but that is very rarely the end of someone's motorcycle riding career. And there is this massive stigma reinforced by people in and outside the motorcycle community that if you crash, you're a bad rider, when really the reverse is true. I'm AJ, aka Squid Tips, and today I'm gonna show you that wrecking your bike isn't the end of the world, even if you got an R1M. So this is what I was wearing when I had to layer down at about 55 miles an hour. Can't hide the moneymaker. You can see the scratches on the back here from the impact to my awry Corsair X helmet. Obviously, I'm alive, so it did its job, but I don't really feel like my head hit the ground all that hard. In motorcycle training, they emphasize that if you crash in a helmet, you should absolutely replace it. But buying a new helmet is definitely in the nice to have category from a financial perspective. Support me fucking around and finding out on patreon.com/squidtips. It was hard to tell exactly what damage came from this crash versus the other times I've had to layer down on my WR250 versus the 3 years of normal wear and tear that I got on these Revzilla branded shorty gloves. What is important is that they saved my hands and I don't need a new pair. That was actually before the crash. My poor white center pride hat got all fucked up. Yeah, that's still good. Well, that's not gonna do. Good as new. My Apple Watch detected the crash and offered to call the police for help, but I didn't want any college kids hit by reckless cops, so I politely declined. Do not fucking narc to the cops about me, Apple Watch. What obviously did not survive the crash was my less than 2-week-old $400 Arc'teryx jacket that I bought for commuting in the cold, wet Seattle winters. Literally 0% of you watching are surprised that this was as useful in the crash as tissue paper. The manufacturer's limited warranty did not cover this. This hand-me-down Adidas sweater handled most of the kinetic impact on my shoulder here and saved my nearly brand new DEF CON shirt. I don't really care about the small holes here. It just kind of gives the shirt a bit of character and a fun story to tell the handful of nerds that know what the fuck this symbol means. Now, I'm on record as a Samba's stan. They are functional and comfortable and look as good on the court as they do in formal occasions. There's this really infamous PSA from like Australia or something where this dude hits the ground on his motorcycle and his shoes explode like fucking confetti at 25 miles an hour. My Sambas didn't do that, but the tongue did get a little ripped up along with my shoelace, and I Did have to replace it with an objectively shittier version than the stock one, but that just demotes these two yard work Sambas. Pants. Yeah, pretty obliterated. Mostly on the side I first hit the ground on though. Honestly, I might wear these again. Maybe turn them into like jean shorts or something. Leave a comment if you know what the fuck I should do with all these jeans I've been destroying over the years. And that leads to my underwear, and they were completely unscathed. That's not true. I think I ended up throwing them away because they were so bloody and fucked up. My body was mostly fine other than road rash. My left side took the initial impact and left me bruised and limping for a few days. I did have to change a lot of bandages on my back and hip over the next 2 weeks on my right side, and I bled through a lot of shirts. This crash didn't stop me from riding at all, really. It just stopped me from riding my R1M. I focused on my buddy's wedding for the weekend and then limped my R1M over to Freaky's place to start the rebuild process. That girl, she was sweet enough to let me borrow her Aprilia RS660 for the next 2 months while we gathered all the parts and slowly pieced it back together. Better record this Phoenix project video, the intro, before we've even done the work. Got my carbon over here. I'll know about that by the time I show you this. It'll be fun. It's an exciting project for me. It's a fun way of taking something that's kind of shitty, turning it into something, you know, enjoyable. I can make something cool out of this. Look, look how much fucking bright side there is in just totally fucking up a $20,000 bike. People don't think about all that shit, about the art projects you can make from several $1,000 motorcycle parts. Damn, this thing is gonna be blacked the fuck out.
Yay!
Does it live?
Oh my God, it feels so different. So that was fresh. Yes, thank God.
Yeah, so I made him fix it. It actually wasn't that hard. I filled out a form, and then there were some emails back and forth where I explained how unsafe it was. And they got out here and fixed it within like a month and communicated with me all the time. It was actually really fucking easy. It was so easy that I was mad that I had to be the one to do it. And after spending all this fucking money. But you know what? Leave it better than you found it. What more can we do? The first time I low-sided a motorcycle was in 2007. I was riding a Kawasaki ZZR 600 that I bought the day I got my M1 endorsement.
Oh, I cracked my nuts so fucking hard. Oh. My balls.
About 4 months later, as the very short Alaskan riding season was starting to wind down, I went for a ride on this quiet frontage road near the airport where pilots park their pontoon planes. As I was coming around the apex of the final corner, I felt the rear tire fly out from underneath me, and it almost sent the bike into the lake for a little swim. I made it out with some road rash and bruises, but I didn't have frame sliders on my bike because I didn't know what those were at the time. So it got pretty destroyed. When I went back and took a look at where I lost traction, there was just a bit of gravel right where I had to lay her down. And that was my wake-up call to the dangerous conditions that I would need to learn to compensate for if I wanted to avoid crashing again. It's been 16 years, and fuck, I've lost count, but it's something like 150,000 riding miles later through sun, rain, night, fog, snow, residential streets, back roads, city, dirt, track, bike lanes, sidewalks, all without hurting anyone but myself. And I'm a far more skilled rider for those experiences, which is why on a sunny, sleepy, 70-degree Saturday morning with fresh, warmed up tires, my right leg locked into the bike, hands loose in the bars, lowered body position, knee out, head up, eyes looking through the corner, throttle steady. I hit that first metal cap, nearly losing the front end, and I thought to myself, I could probably handle another one. If I was 10% of the rider back in 2007 that I am today, with the knowledge of motorcycle physics, mechanics, body position, survival reactions, and the million other things the motorcycle safety course doesn't even scratch the surface of, a little gravel wouldn't have taken me down on that ZZR. To get from where I was all those years ago to where I am today required intentionally seeking out good riding techniques from books like Twist of the Wrist and programs like Champ U. But then I had to go out and actually practice those techniques to transform them from knowledge into muscle memory, because that's when they become the natural reactions that can save your bike and your life when fractions of a second matter.
Excellence is not an art, it's pure habit. We are what we repeatedly do.
I challenge myself to practice body position, navigating tight spaces, hard acceleration, emergency braking, and a million other tiny optimizations to increase motorcycle stability every time I put my leg over the bike, because there's no other way to become a safe motorcycle rider. What I see over and over in crash videos as people run into the infinite permutations of dangerous conditions that exist in public roads in live fire situations are things that you can train yourself out of. Target fixation, freezing, gripping the bars too tight, going too hard on cold tires, chopping the throttle, stabbing at the brakes, and riding with dad-style body position. I don't measure a person's skill on a motorcycle by how few times they crash. The easiest way to not crash on a motorcycle is to simply not ride it. And the top crashers in the world are fucking MotoGP riders. When I think of a skilled rider, I think of someone who isn't afraid to ride in the rain, someone who knows a few tricks, someone who's tried to do something silly on their bike just to see if they could. Capability, adaptability, and experience. That's what I think makes a safe motorcycle rider. My lesson from this crash is that I should have taken that first sewer cap as a sign that this road was more dangerous than I anticipated. Gently rolled off the throttle while slowly raising my body position up and then scanning for the next likely dangerous condition to evade. An emergency reaction I've done successfully countless times. Sure, I'm thinking about getting more gear, but I was actually already considering that after I was introduced to pants and sweaters from brands like Diane I Say that look like normal shit, so I'd feel comfortable wearing them on or off the bike. That's what's important to me. If your lesson from this, given your level of experience, is that you just want to slow down because that's what makes you feel comfortable, go for it. Always ride your own ride, but recognize that that's not the only or best option, and that you're trading the safety that comes with doing the work and taking the calculated risks necessary to become an excellent motorcycle rider. I'm not a big, rich YouTube guy with unlimited time and money to fix my shit, because I do and say a lot of things that make the typical content creator money streams like sponsorships extremely hard to land. So I would have been completely fucked without the support from others. So I want to make sure to thank Freaky Zin and Narlita Supreme for helping me put this back together. I love and appreciate you so much. See you on the streets. Ride fast and take chances.
I don't have a high regard for what are called squids. And this particular motorcycle rider has self-identified as a squid, as someone who rides without gear and may ride somewhat in ways that challenge the limits of the law.
Usually a squid is a self-correcting problem because they kill themselves eventually.
The world is coming to an end. So where would you rather die? Here?
Or on a motorbike.